Continuing from 2.203. Remember God during a number of days. Whoever hurries to 2 days, there is no sin upon him. And whoever delays, there is no sin upon him if he is being righteous. Be conscientious of God, and know that it is to him that you will be gathered. Among the people are those whose words you admire in this worldly life, but God is witness as to what is in his heart, for he is the worst in opposition. If he gains power, he seeks to corrupt the earth and destroy its crops and people's lineage. God does not like corruption. If he is told, be conscientious of God, his pride leads to more sin. Hell shall be sufficient for him. What a miserable abode! Among the people is he who dedicates his person by seeking God's favors. God is kind to his servants. O you who acknowledge, join in peace, all of you, and do not follow the footsteps of the devil. He is to you a clear enemy. But if you slip after the proof has come to you, then know that God is noble, wise. Are they waiting for God to come to them shadowed in clouds with the angels? The matter would then be finished. To God all matters will return. Ask the children of Israel how many clear signs we gave them. Whoever changes God's favor after it has come to him, then God is mighty in retribution. This worldly life has been made pleasing to the ingrates, and they mock those who acknowledge. Those who are aware will be above them on the day of resurrection. God provides for whomever he wishes, without counting. The people used to be one nation. Then God sent the prophets as bearers of good news and as warners. And he sent down with them the book with the facts so that they may judge between the people in what they were disputing. But after receiving the proof, the people disputed in it due to animosity between them. God guided those who acknowledged with his permission regarding what they disputed in of the truth. God guides whomever he wishes to a straight path. Or did you calculate that you would enter paradise, while the example of those who were before you came to you? They were stricken with adversity and hardship, and they were shaken until the messenger and those who acknowledged with him said, "When is God's victory?" Yes, indeed, God's victory is near. They ask you what they should spend. Say, what you spend out of goodness should go to your family, and the relatives, and the orphans, and the needy, and the wayfarer. Any good you do, God is fully aware of it. Warfare has been decreed for you while you hate it, and perhaps you may hate something while it is good for you, and perhaps you may love something while it is bad for you. God knows, while you do not know. They ask you about fighting in the restricted month. Say, fighting in it is a great offense. Yet, repelling from the path of God, and not appreciating him and the restricted temple, driving its inhabitants out, is far greater with God. Persecution is worse than being killed. They still will fight you until they turn you back from your system, if they are able. Whoever of you turns back from his system and dies as ingrates, then these have nullified their work in this life and the next. These are the people of the fire. There they will abide eternally. Those who have acknowledged and those who have emigrated and strived in the cause of God, these are seeking God's compassion, and God is forgiving, compassionate. They ask you about intoxicants and gambling. Say, in them is great harm, and benefit for people, but their harm is greater than their benefit. They ask you how much are they to give. Say, the excess. Thus God clarifies for you the signs that you may think. In this world and the next, they also ask you regarding the orphans. Say, to reform their situation is best, and if you are to care for them, then they are your brothers. God knows the corrupt from the reformer, and had God wished, he could have made things difficult. God is noble, wise. Do not marry the females who set up partners until they acknowledge. An acknowledging servant is better than one who sets up partners, even if she attracts you. Do not also marry the males who set up partners until they acknowledge. An acknowledging servant is better than one who sets up partners, even if he attracts you. These invite to the fire, while God is inviting to paradise and forgiveness by his leave. He clarifies his signs for the people, that they may remember. They ask you about menstruation. Say, it is painful, so retire yourselves sexually from the women during the menstruation, and do not approach them until they are cleansed. When they are cleansed, then you may approach them, as God has commanded you. God loves the repenters, and he loves the cleansed. Your women are cultivation for you, so approach your cultivation as you wish towards goodness. Be conscientious of God, and know that you will meet him, and give good news to those who acknowledge. Do not make God the subject of your oaths, to be pious, aware, and reform relations among people, and God is hearer, knower. God will not call you to account for your casual oaths, but he will call you to account for what has entered your hearts. God is forgiving, compassionate. For those who are discontent with their wives, let them wait for 4 months. If they reconcile, then God is forgiving, compassionate. If they insist on the divorce, then God is hearer, knowledgeable. The divorced women shall wait for 3 menstruation periods, and it is not lawful for them to conceal what God has created in their wombs, if they acknowledge God in the last day. Their husbands are more justified to return to them if they both wish to reconcile. The women have rights similar to their obligations, according to the recognized norms, but the men will have a degree over them. God is noble, wise. The divorce is allowed twice, so either remain together equitably or part ways with kindness. It is not lawful for you to take back anything you have given the women unless you fear that they will not uphold God's limits. So, if you fear that they will not uphold God's limits, then there is no sin upon them for what is given back. These are God's limits, so do not transgress them. Whoever shall transgress God's limits are the wicked. So if he divorces her again, then she will not be lawful for him until she has married another husband. If the other husband divorces her, then they are not blamed for coming back together, if they think they will uphold God's limits. These are God's limits. He clarifies them for a people that know. If you have divorced the women, and they have reached the required interim period, then either remain together equitably, or part ways equitably. Do not reconcile with them, so you can harm them out of animosity. Whoever does so is doing wickedness to his person. Do not take God's signs lightly. Remember God's blessings towards you, and what was sent down to you of the book and the wisdom. He warns you with it. Be conscientious of God, and know that God is knowledgeable in all things. If you divorce the women, and they have reached their required interim period, then do not prevent them from remarrying their husbands, if they amicably agree amongst themselves out of what is best. This is to remind any of you who acknowledge God and the last day. This is better for you and purer, and God knows, while you do not know. The birth mothers suckle their children for 2 full years, for those who wish to complete the suckling. The man for whom the child is born is responsible for both their provisions and clothing equitably. A person should not be burdened beyond its means. No mother shall be harmed because of her child, nor shall a father be harmed because of his child. For the guardian is the same requirement. So, if they wish to separate out of mutual agreement and counsel, then there is no blame on them. If you want to hire nursing mothers, then there is no blame on you if you return what you have been given according to the recognized norms. Be conscientious of God, and know that God is watching over what you do. For those of you who pass away and leave widows behind, then their widows will have a required interim period of 4 months and 10 days. When they reach the required interim, then there is no blame on you for what they do to themselves according to the recognized norms. God is ever aware of what you do. There is no blame upon you if you openly propose marriage to these women, or you keep it between yourselves. God knows that you will be thinking of them. But do not meet them secretly, unless you have something righteous to say. Do not consummate the marriage until the required interim is reached in the book. Know that God knows what is in your minds, so be conscientious of him, and know that God is forgiving, compassionate. There is no blame on you if you divorce the women before having sexual intercourse with them, or before committing to what was agreed for them. Let them have compensation, the rich according to his means, and the poor according to his means. Compensation which is according to the recognized norms is a responsibility for good doers. If you divorce them before having sexual intercourse with them, but you have already agreed to the dowry, then you must give half of what you have agreed, unless they forgive, or the guardian over the marriage contract forgives. If you forgive, it is closer to awareness. Do not forget the favor between you. God is seer over what you do. Preserve the contact prayers and the middle contact prayer, and stand devoutly for God. But if you are in a state of worry, then you may do so while walking or riding. If you become secure, then remember God as he has taught you what you did not know. Those of you who pass away and leave widows behind, leave a will for them, that they may enjoy for 1 year without being evicted. If they leave, then there is no blame on you for what they do to themselves out of the recognized norms, and God is noble, wise. For the divorced women, compensation is an obligation upon the conscientious. It is such that God clarifies to you his signs that you may reason. Did you not see those who were evicted from their homes in groups, all the while they were wary of death? So God said to them, "Die." Then he resurrected them. God has great favor over the people, but most people are not thankful. Fight in the cause of God, and know that God is the hearer, the knowledgeable. Who will lend God a loan of goodness, that he may multiply it for him? God collects and he distributes, and to him you will return. Did you not note the leaders of the children of Israel after Moses? They said to their prophet, "Send us a king, that we may fight in the cause of God." He said, "Are you not concerned that if fighting is decreed upon you, you will then not fight?" They said, "Why should we not fight in the cause of God, when we have been driven out from our homes with our children?" Yet, when fighting was decreed for them, they turned away, except for a few of them. God is fully aware of the wicked. Their prophet said to them, "God has sent Saul to you as a king." They said, "How can he have the kingship when we are more deserving than him, and he has not been given an abundance of wealth?" He said, "God has chosen him over you and increased him in knowledge and stature. God grants his sovereignty to whom he chooses, and God is encompassing, knowledgeable." Their prophet said to them, "The sign of his kingship shall be that he brings to you the ark, in which there is tranquility from your Lord, and the legacy of what was left behind by the descendants of Moses and the descendants of Aaron, being carried by the angels. And this is a sign for you if you acknowledge." So when Saul set out with the soldiers, he said, "God will test you with a river. Whoever drinks from it is not with me, and whoever does not taste from it, except one scoop with his hand, is with me." They all drank from it, except a few of them. So when he and those who acknowledged with him crossed it, they said, "We have no power today against Goliath and his soldiers." But the ones who understood that they would meet God said, "How many a time has a small group beaten a large group by God's leave, and God is with the patient ones." When they came forth to Goliath and his soldiers, they said, "Our Lord, grant us patience, and make firm our foothold, and grant us victory over the ingrates." So they defeated them by God's leave. Thus David killed Goliath, and God gave him the kingship and the wisdom, and taught him what he wished. Had it not been for God pushing the people to challenge one another, then the earth would have long been corrupted. But God has done favor over the worlds. These are God's signs. We recite them to you with truth, and you are of the messengers.